But I tell you what else is not working is the purge going down in Detroit at the Sacred Heart Seminary. There's been even more firings since we last discussed it on Friday. Joining us to discuss this is retired from that same seminary, Dr. Janet Smith. Good morning to you, Dr. Smith. Thank you for your time.
Good to be here. Thank you.
This is a big deal. Give us your take on all of this.
Oh, well, I just think it's quite sad that these three very distinguished scholars and fantastic Catholics have been summarily dismissed from the seminary. The word fired is very hard. All of them are at an age where you could ask them to resign, or you could ask them to take an early, in one case particularly, be an early retirement. But that wasn't done. They were just called in and, hello, Archbishop, happy to meet you. Yes, these aren't the best circumstances. Yes, well, I'm here to fire you. And all of them have been at the seminary for more than 20 years and have never received any kind of a negative evaluation or any indication that somehow they were not serving the seminary or the church well. And they're gone. And now the turmoil at the seminary is great. Students don't know what to think about this. There's no explanation given, none at all. No reasons given to them. No press release about what this is about. That leaves us, of course, only to speculation. So the other faculty at the seminary feel like they're, maybe they're going to have the same fate. And they're all worried about their fate, supporting their families. Where can they get a job if they're going? Will this destroy the seminary? Will bishops stop sending young men? Will young men say they don't want to go there? They'd rather go somewhere else. The seminary is it's a home, in a sense, for the diocese, for people who want to learn more about the church and want to learn more theology. So it has a very large lay program. Well, you can get those in a lot of places now, online, etc. Well, they want to be coming to the seminary. So it's an event that has caused enormous apprehension for the seminary community here, and I think throughout the United States. For decades now, there's been an attempt to make seminaries more faithful. During the 60s, 70s, 80s, well into the 90s, most of the professors in these seminaries were, or at least the high-profile ones, were dissenters. Those who rejected church teaching, those who wanted to change church teaching. So with John Paul II, in particular, there was an effort to bring the seminaries in a line, have faculty, as if this should be controversial, have faculty who would joyfully and brilliantly defend church teaching. And Sacred Heart achieved that to a very great extent. It's been an exemplary faculty. So, just a decade ago, maybe a little more, these men were asked to be on pontifical commissions. Ralph Martin set up the STL for the new evangelization for priests around the United States and around the world. It's been tremendously beneficial for the church to have priests, and these are seasoned priests. These are priests a little bit older who really learned a great deal about evangelization in the church and were able to take it back to their parishes, their dioceses, in some cases even their countries. So if anybody, Ralph, Ed Peters was the first layperson in the United States to be invited to be on the Apostolic Signatura, which is the canon law final tribunal at the Vatican. Very, very distinguished position. Ed Echeverria has been deeply involved in efforts of ecumenism at the highest level in the United States. And he brings out a book like you can't. Now every time I turn around, Ed has a new book, and he's always writing articles for various Catholic publications. He's a very active person. The students know him before they get there, and lay people know these people. They're looking for their next publication. And Ed Peters has become a little bit quiet over the last pontificate because it was he didn't want to be critical. He was the go-to guy for any dispute about canon law or should we give communion to dissenters, etc. He had a tremendous blog on this matter, and everybody. He was told that people, the cardinals in Rome, were consulting it all the time. We were known in Rome, but people, the Curia, the cardinals, etc., they would talk about the faculty at Sacred Heart.
Wow.
So, yeah, it's a very, very sad thing.
You know, I was very critical of the Francis pontificate. I spend a lot of time on this show being critical of the things that were coming out of the Francis pontificate. And, I get the criticism I deserve for that, I suppose. Dr. Ralph Martin, Dr. Echeverria, Peters, they didn't make a career, as you just clearly indicated, of being critical of the Francis pontificate. If they spoke up one time, that was kind of like the extent of their criticism. And for that, they get fired. That seems incredibly vindictive.
It's vindictive, and it seems like a warning shot. It seems like a warning shot to everybody else. I mean, this is supposed to be, again, these three men, you cannot find more faithful Catholics, men that wanted to spend their lives and have spent their lives defending controversial church teachings, paying a big price for that in their professional life in various ways, not just now, but in other ways. And they were hired for the very positions they hold and that they're being fired for now. And it just goes to show you, again, a change in the church, not in the church triumphant, but in the hierarchical church today, that men that were really considered the top of the line as far as scholars who defended church teaching, these are the men. And then all of a sudden, we have a Holy Father who, you could say at the best, you can say spoke ambiguously on various church teachings. And these guys, believe me, they do not like in any way contravening a Holy Father.
Right.
But we all took an oath when we joined the faculty. I brought it up here. And it says, in carrying out my charge, which is committed to me in the name of the church, I shall preserve the deposit of faith in its entirety, hand it on faithfully, and make it shine forth. As a result, whatsoever teachings are contrary, I shall shun. Now, as you said, these men did not make a career in the least of criticizing Pope Francis. At a certain point, he forced their hand as a matter of what their oath says. I remember when I first met Bishop Strickland, he sat down with me and he showed me what oath he was made to take, or was happy to take, of course, as when he became a bishop. And he said, he read two things. He said, I have to pledge to do two things. He said, I have to pledge to defend the deposit of the faith, and then I have to defend to support the Holy Father. He said, what do I do when these are in conflict? And that's what it is the predicament of people in the position of these three men, is that their job is to form priests who understand and are willing to teach and live the teaching of the church. Then when ambiguities come forth, and believe me, priests out there were being besieged all the time by lay people saying, is homosexuality okay now? We can bless homosexual unions. Right. Is that okay?
Exactly.
And it was their job to defend, as it says here, defend, preserve the deposit of the faith. You might recall when Strickland, that he was called in at one point by Christophe Pierre, the nuncio, and he said, I need to defend the deposit of the faith. And Pierre said, "What's that? No such thing."
Wow.
And he said, "What?"
Shocking.
Yeah, it's shocking. And so if people knew these men and knew how much they loved the church and loved the papacy, and how with what reluctance they, just like all of us at the start of Francis's pontificate, he would say these things, and we try to twist and turn them and try to get them to line up with church teaching. And then at a certain point, you say, I'm sorry, intellectual integrity requires that I take him at his word, at what he clearly means to say. We're not going to twist his words to make it line up with something he clearly doesn't want to line up with. And that's of course, that's a huge challenge for the conscience of any scholar, is do I try to make it look better than it looks, or do I just take it and say what it is and say what's wrong with it, not to demean the Holy Father, not, insult him in any way, try to give him all due reverence that he has as the holder of the office. But I'm sorry, blessing homosexual unions, allowing the divorced and remarried without benefit of annulment to return to the sacrament is not in accord with church teaching. Cardinal Ambongo. And
the cardinal from Africa, who went to the Vatican to negotiate a change to fiducia supplicans.
Right. So you're saying if cardinals, and there are cardinals who've given, put a dubio in front of the Holy Father about these matters, doesn't get answered, and you say, what? You have put seminary professors with integrity in an impossible place, that they need to defend the deposit of the faith, but they can't criticize something that the Holy Father has said, which is causing enormous confusion among not only the laity, but priests, cardinals, anybody in the church. It's causing ambiguity.
Yeah, exactly. We're almost out of time here. That music means that we are out of time with Dr. Janet Smith. I wanted to say, though, that the Rate Caeli has reported through Josh Mansfield that apparently the bishop acted extra judiciously, going over the head of the rector, and has caused lots of upheaval amongst the bishops in Michigan. So I'm hoping that if these professors appeal their canonical rights back to Rome, that we might see some justice on this story. But Dr. Janet Smith, I appreciate your take on this. This was really close to home for you. So I can imagine this was a very painful story for you, but we're grateful for your time today. Thank you.